guests, respectively, as Fox Mulder and Dana Scully. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson! Suffice it to say, I think we have some fans here, guys. I think we have some fans in the building. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming out. It's always a pleasure as a fan, and I know I speak for all the fan boys and girls and everyone out there, to see you in the flesh and come out here and give back to the fans. We totally appreciate it. So again, thank you for coming out to Wizard World Chicago and to Wizard World. We appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing back the characters recently. I mean, I know we're going to get into, it's super exciting, again, for the fan base to get that both in 2016 and 2018, and we can talk a little bit later about, perhaps the future, if it exists. The future is out there. But what I'd love to kick things off with is just finding out a little bit more
about... Am I hearing an echo?
What's funny? We hear the echo, and they don't hear the echo. I've done it.
Okay, I'll try to ignore it.
Yeah, I've been out there. To them, you sound great. To us, it sounds a little bit weird. Yeah, a little bit wobbly for sure.
Thanks.
Tell us about your early starts. I know, David, you started as a writer in college, and then, and Gillian, did a little bit of writing.
Well, I thought of myself
Dabbled.
as a writer.
Yeah.
I wrote. I had handwriting. I was. I wanted to write plays, so I thought I thought I should probably learn something about acting. So that's how I got into acting.
Nice.
Yeah. Hi. My name's David.
It's amazing, to hear people's starts before you got into it. I mean, I know, Gillian, you started and have continued to work on the stage as a theater actress as well, and in school. Yeah. But for both of you, what ultimately, was the thing that led you down the path that eventually led to, TV and film, and then obviously ultimately the X-Files?
Hunger. I just, I had, from whatever point I had decided that I wanted to be an actor, that's what I pursued, and at a certain point I was auditioning for stuff beyond theater.
Sure.
That included film mostly film. Didn't want to do television. And then after a year of saying, no, I won't audition for film, I auditioned for a television show. And that was that.
Was there something early on in your careers that felt like everything was going, the way you wanted it to go, and, was happening the way you wanted it to happen, like a project or
and then I started waitressing again.
Yeah, it's tough.
No, I just mean, you can have, you think at every stage, this
Sure.
either sucks or this is amazing, and then it can suck again, and it can be amazing again.
Yeah. David, anything for you, sort of early on before getting, the part in the X-Files, or maybe it was the X-Files itself, where you felt success, some level of success in the industry, and then that continued?
If I could pay my rent and eat, then I thought I was successful. And so I was able. I had that for probably a couple of years before the X-Files. I felt fine.
Sure.
I did a movie called The Rapture. That was very kind of, for me, that was a big deal. And then I just thought, like Gillian, I didn't want to do film because at that point. In the history of mankind, I don't know if you know, it's back in the 20th century, but there was a big difference between television and film, and there was a big difference between the perception of television actors versus film actors. So it wasn't something that people were dying to do, and then eventually it kind of evened out, and now I think actually, most of television, or most of the things that you get through a screen in your own home, I don't think people actually watch television anymore, but that the caliber of that and certainly the acting in these things is just as good, if not better, than film now.
Oh, I agree 100%. Yeah.
But that wasn't the case, which is why Gillian would have said she didn't want to do television, and myself the same.
Has the sort of landscape of how filming happens during a TV show changed throughout the years, in terms of the schedule and kind of the way scripts come in and things like that, since your early years again in TV?
I don't know if they. I mean, certainly when you're on the set and they're having to change the film mag. Back then, where you'd actually have a break,
right.
A little bit of a break because they had to change the magazine. Now they don't because it's all digital, and so everything is much speedier. But they still seem to shoot the same amount of hours, even though.
It didn't speed anything up. That was the legend when it all started with visuals. Oh, it's going to make things so much faster. We'll never cut. We'll just keep going. But we're still cutting. But I think what's changed mostly is just the schedule because of the orders. That you do 6-episode show now and 8-episode, 10, 12, and when Gillian and I were doing X-Files was anywhere from 22 to 25 1 hour. So that's a huge difference in terms of one's creative lifestyle, just your life in general.
Well, even just a few years ago when I was doing The Fall, I was trying to talk to people in the States about the fact that I did this series that was 6 episodes. They would look at me like, well, that's not a series. 6 episodes, then what is that, like a special of the week, a movie?
It sounds like a hobby.
Yeah. I did this little thing called The Fall. I think other big change, obviously, has been the internet. You know what I mean? Because X-Files started at a time when the internet was around and sort of bubbling, but it wasn't like people could just get on anywhere and tweet away or comment away. Do you feel more of that influence now? When you came back to the series from that sort of internet community or that internet buzz, do you think that affects a lot of what's going on in script writing and shooting?
I don't know. Well, certainly the scripts that were being written in the later seasons had to embody the change.
Sure.
And because an element of the series did have to do with the internet, the deep web, that did.
Do you have any idea what you're saying? I say that, and I don't know what I'm even talking about. When you say deep web,
it's like
your brain is going blank. Deep web, dark matter.
Yes. Delete.
Delete. Well, even the start of I guess it was season 10, right? 2016 had changed. Chris brought in a lot of the elements of, how Mulder and Scully would deal with this world now that, it's not just the government conspiracies going on behind secret doors. It's all on this internet, and there's sort of like this internet fear. And I think it's really cool how this series has developed, throughout the years. And we get to follow you from, your earliest years as a, fledgling, FBI agents all the way through. And now, parents.
So old age,
Yeah. I was trying to say it nicely.
I'm glad you enjoy that,
Yeah. It's well seasoned. You're well seasoned, like a fine. Let's get to some questions. We've got a lot of fans out there, and I want to make sure to get through as many as possible. So let's start right over here.
Hi. My question is, if you could say one thing to your fans over the last 25 years, what would it be?
I'm so sorry.
David?
Yeah. I don't get it.
I'm sorry it's over for you. I'm sorry it ended the way it ended. I'm sorry for so many different things. That's all.
I thought it was something else.
Top that, motherfucker. That was for both of us.
Have you ever been? Clearly the show had a cult status and has a giant fan group. But even the characters themselves have become pop iconic. People dress up as them, people quote them. Was there a point where you were kind of aware that sort of looking in the mirror and kind of seeing yourself out there in the fan world and realizing you had created what will forever last as these very pop culture significant legendary characters in the sci-fi universe?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So,
Looked in the mirror and thought, I'm an icon.
yeah. Yeah, I started to think, I walked around in New York City and I was like, yeah, everybody wearing a suit, they're Mulder.
Yeah.
They're all dressed as Mulder.
They're all Mulder.
I've really caught on.
Awesome.
And I see polyester pantsuits, we know. We know who started that trend.
Yeah. and the famous hair as well, the famous bob hair, yeah.
Oh, has anybody seen this picture that this girl did of all Scully, the history of Scully's hair?
Yeah.
It's right there. It's fucking cool. She bought one for you. I'm sure you'll put it on your wall.
I feel like that would look great back to back with just like a Mulder, just consistent through the years, you know? A little more disheveled.
A lot of these are very similar.
They're different.
Oh. We got him. That's why you're mad.
No, my dear, there are other reasons. But...
The other reason why you're mad.
It's lovely. Thank you.
Hey, let's get the next question.
Hi, I'm Kathy. I have a question. Were episodes like Small Potatoes just for like the comedic effect? Were they as fun to make as they were to watch?
Oh, well, they you know, some episodes had a different tone than others, and they would have like a more comedic tone like that one. And I don't know if they were fun because speaking for myself, I would feel pressure for it to be different, or if I really liked the script, I sometimes wanted it to be great or funny in that case, and that would feel, sometimes it would feel like more pressure than the other ones. And I'm not saying I didn't give a shit about the other ones, but I was aware that this was a different type of bar that we were trying to get at. So I don't know if it would be fun. It would be fun in a challenging sense, yes, but not fun in like, oh, we're making comedy and we're laughing all the time. Fun.
Except that I do remember when we got them that it felt like a relief, you know, and also the likelihood of me not having, 14 paragraphs of medical jargon was higher in the comedy episodes than
Just like a break from the norm.
Yeah.
And in Small Potatoes, I did have to, Darren Morgan, the writer, was the guest star in that, and I did have to chase him down a hallway, and he had a tail or something, and I had to pull his waistband down to look at where the tail had been cut off, and I pulled too hard, and I pulled his pants all the way around. So that was
fun?
That was fun.
That one was fun.
That was fun.
Thank you.
For Darren.
Right.
Hi there, welcome to Chicago. Hope you're having a good time. And my question is going to be a little bit on the strange side. Geez, strange questions.
You're filming while you question.
Well, I want to record this for posterity, sir. Anyway, my question...
Austerity like your friends?
No, just my personal collection of strange questions I ask celebrities.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's get, now here's the question.
The question is, okay, let's break the fourth wall. If you could break the fourth wall and go back to season 1 of The X-Files, you, the actor, are talking to your character. So, Mr. Duchovny, you are talking to Mulder, Ms. Anderson, you are talking to Scully. If you could give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't do it.
I like your advice so far. It's I'm sorry and don't do it.
Well, if I didn't do it, there wouldn't be a sorry.
Yeah, true.
I'm worried by the whole scenario.
I'm trying to make you think of something different.
I honestly think...
You have.
Yeah. I think that's an appropriate reaction, David. You know what I mean? You'd just be worried that was even happening in the first place, you know? Awesome. Hey.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Jim. You guys obviously have had a great fan base throughout the years of the X-Files. If you were to go to Comic-Con, who would you want to see and stand in line and kind of geek out over?
Well, I just met,
Kato Kalin.
I didn't get it great. I also met Uhuru from Star Trek. Michelle Nichols?
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm a big Star Trek, I'm sorry, only the original Star Trek fan. I don't want to ruffle any feathers here. I know you people get very bent out of shape. But the rest of it is shit. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's the truth. Just kidding. Please don't take any offense. Fuck you. So I think I loved that show. The rest of the Star Treks are fantastic. Come on. And it was great to meet her, and she looks amazing. And I was happy. I worked with a guy named John McNamara. We did a show together. He's a huge Trek fan. I sent him a picture of us together, me and Michelle, and he was so jealous. It was a nice moment.
Gillian, anybody that you would like to meet?
Sorry, I should have been thinking about it.
That's okay.
So entranced.
Or even just like early influences, or other actors.
Hey, professional wrestlers.
Yeah, there you go.
I think if after Venom, Tom Hardy ever comes to a Comic-Con, I might have to stand in line.
That would be a great choice. Thank you so much.
Hey.
Hi, thank you for being here. I love you both. My question is, in what ways do you think The X-Files and the character of Scully would have been different if it had been written from a more feminist perspective?
Is that for me?
Either one. Gillian?
That's a really good question. I mean, I'm pretty sure that there would be, they would probably be less focused on her reproductive abilities. Pretty sure. It would be less of an obsession. And I think probably early on, she probably would have been positioned a little bit differently in conversation and I think on the one hand, as we can see from all of the fans and the impact that she did have, and she, regardless, is and remains a feminist icon. I think that there are a few areas where, given the facts, that maybe it falls a bit short of that, or it feels like she doesn't live up to the potential of what that could be.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy. My question is for the second to last episode in season 11, so the last season. When Mulder and Scully were in the church together, what did Scully whisper to Mulder?
Suck my dick.
I think you just heard what a real feminist icon said.
Those were both correct answers. Nice job. Yeah, both. Well, I guess the sort
She
of
didn't say anything. The truth is, she didn't really say anything. She just kind of moved her. He didn't really say any words. You were just kind of gumming around. You didn't say anything at all.
Well, no, but I think at some point it was like, what am I saying? Does anybody know what I'm meant to be saying? Is there something that we're not getting? What would I
There was
say?
nothing written.
If I were to
I
say
never said
something,
anything.
what
Yeah.
would it be?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, what was the intent?
What's the ending of the series?
What was the
Does it have to
intent?
do with the ending of the series?
We didn't really know.
I love you, Mulder.
Oh, that's it. No.
For a series to have like lasted that long and had such an impact, obviously there's always going to be gripes and certain people, you're going to be upset about certain storylines and certain changes. But I think what's so fantastic about your portrayal of these two characters was how you really embodied them and made them these strong individuals. And we can have these individual moments, you know what I mean, in these individual episodes that will last forever. And we can have our gripes on the overall arc and everything and where it's going, and we can be upset if it's not coming back. But the impact that you created in both the sci-fi world and then just as performers and actors is the reason we're all here today. So we thank you for that, despite all the, despite all the Hollywood business. You know what I mean? Hey.
Hi, I'm a huge fan of both of yours. I love The Fall, I love the Californication, but The X-Files was always my happy place, And I think a lot of that had to do with your chemistry together as actors. And now that The X-Files is over, do you think you guys might ever appear on screen ever again? Together? You know what I mean.
This is what he's saying, is this might be it. So get it now, yeah.
It's impossible to say. We don't know.
It would be funny. It would be funny for us to do like a Thin Man type comedy type thing.
It would be tough, right? I mean, not that you guys couldn't do it, but because we see you as these two characters, iconic characters.
Very hard.
Yeah, if it was anything but X-Files, it would be tough to remove ourselves from it. So it would be interesting if there was a fun play or on the characters themselves.
Well, we had talked for a while about how fun it would be to actually do a proper spoof feature of the X-Files in an airplane type kind of. Yeah, we had a couple of conversations.
There's a couple episodes that come close. Some of those funny episodes we talked to were spoofs in and of themselves, and so we got to see a little bit of that already, which was nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey.
Hi. Thanks for being here. Welcome home. You worked with William B. Davis, who's also a very well-respected teacher of theater and acting. Have you two ever thought about teaching or directing more? I mean, I know you're both novelists, so you're creative that way, but have you thought about teaching or directing theater more?
I've never thought about teaching. I don't think I'd be a particularly good teacher. I have thought about directing, but it feels like something I want to do later on if I start getting less work as an actor. Then I might probably will head in that direction. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't thought of teaching. No, I've never really thought. But I guess directing encompasses that a little bit. But no, I haven't thought of it. Yeah.
You make a good teacher.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hank was not a good teacher.
What would he teach?
Sex ed.
It's so funny, I'm doing a series called Sex Ed. You can come on as a teacher. You can come to the high school and be a teacher. The name of the show is Sex Education, yeah.
Good segue.
Flattered her.
Wow.
David, tell us about sort of you got to direct some episodes of X-Files, which was awesome, and then you have directed some amazing films as well. Do you get a different sort of, just one, yeah. Do you get a different sort of rise, if you will, out of directing or something?
Yeah.
And what excites you about that, different from acting?
That you don't have to go to hair and makeup before you go to work. It's really nice. It's just, acting is kind of lonely because it's like you're in charge of your job and that's the only job that you're really involved in. And when you're directing, you're kind of collaborating with everyone else and you're not in charge of their job. I see it as hiring people to do their jobs way better than you could ever do them. And you get to ask people to do great work and just enable them to do it and create a situation on the set where they can. And I like that feeling. It's a lot less lonely than acting, I think. that makes any sense.
Yeah, totally, completely.
It's interesting because acting is meant to be collaboratory in a way, but very often, and every job is different, but you kind of need to prepare enough that you could go on and be your own director, because most of the time you're directing yourself. You know, I've had more experiences where that's been the case than when I've been able to rely on a director to have more of a collaboratory experience. So, yeah.
Especially in TV, right, where there's different directors every episode, different writers every episode. They're coming in, like you said, to sort of just steer the ship, you know, and you're there to really make it happen. What about the cast, though? I mean, you know, we know you guys have great chemistry, and I know that was a question. It did feel like you guys were all very connected, you know, with Mitch and, you know, everyone else in the cast. Or did it feel like you're describing a little more, you know, you were alone and kind of preparing and then coming in and really the magic happened on stage? Was a lot just performing, or was there a connection outside of that as well with the cast of X-Files?
Well, maybe I don't know if I express myself by saying it's lonely. I don't mean alone. I just mean you're kind of concerned with what you're doing, and mostly that only. So it's just self-oriented, like in your job there.
Yeah.
Obviously you collaborate with other actors when you're working with them, but yeah, we were together a long time, so we you know, I think everybody kind of grew very fond of one another, or you know, reliant on one another in a way over the years.
There's also in the way that we were working, there's no time to be social with each other.
Right.
There just isn't, and the time that you do have, you kind of don't want to see the people that you've been working with all week. You know, you want a break or to spend time with your children or your other loved
Hang out with
ones.
some other show.
Yeah. cross lots over the other side.
You are bright.
Yeah, it's got a very nice yellow shirt on.
Gillian, do you think there are any Scully influences on Hannibal? And for David, do you ever meet Bree Sharp?
I've been asked that a couple times a day, oddly, about whether there were influence, and that's kind of the point of what I try to do, is to make sure that there isn't crossover between characters, and I work quite hard at finding the differences in order for that to be the case. So let's say no.
Oh yeah, I met Bree. Yeah.
Did she really love you? That's a gentleman.
Thank you. Hey.
Hi, I'm huge fans of both of yours. Gillian, you are like a living queen. And David, I love you. You both are just huge influences on me, so thank you for all you do. My question is, how are you both similar to your characters, Scully and Mulder, and how is your relationship in real life similar to Scully and Mulder's, if at all?
Jill, you mentioned a second ago about trying to separate, you know, the different characters themselves, but you know, naturally as an actor, you're going to bring some stuff from yourself.
This is the point. Those questions are really tough because, to be honest with you, as an actor, you know, it's your magic trick what you do, and it's not magic. So, if you give away the magic trick, then there's no more magic. So, try not to answer or even deal or even think deeply about a question of how I'm the same as the character that I'm playing, because it would just really depress me to actually go into that, if you know what I mean. The other part of your question is just real personal, and I wouldn't answer that.
Well, I think she's talking about our relationship,
I know.
right? Oh, okay.
Yeah. You want to answer that? If you'd like to answer, go ahead.
Well, we don't sleep in the same bed. Although I'm not quite sure they do either.
Well, I don't know about that. What kind of bed do you sleep in?
Good wordplay. Good wordplay. It must get frustrating sometimes, right? To be these characters, like not only seeing these characters, because obviously other great works, but to have people come up always and want you to be these people that we see on the TV screen and be the same way in real life. Does it get frustrating? You know what I mean? Hearing.
I haven't had that experience. I don't.
Which is great.
I don't tend to run into people who want me to be a character. I don't think.
Yeah, which is great and nice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think it's more love and support. It's coming from a place, of love and support, not sort of just annoyance, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey.
Hi. So as season 11 showed us, Mulder and Scully are in fact having sex. So I was wondering, who tops?
Hang on a second.
I'm just wondering.
I know, but does that even exist in the heterosexual world?
It absolutely does. It can
Does
exist in
it?
any form. Yeah.
Well, because most of the time you're flipping each other around, whereas right? Whereas it's different in the gay and lesbian community.
So I'll rephrase it then. Who
Yes.
has control when they have sex?
I will be answering these questions. But I don't think I need to answer the question. We know the answer.
All right, no more fan fiction, guys. Come on, questions about their careers, about everything. Let's go. Next up. Who's up?
David, Gillian. I'll be making my own small screen debut here in a couple months. What I wanted to ask was, well, first of all, I wanted to thank Gillian, you, and Chris Carter for the portrayal of Scully's Christian background, because when she was going to confession, that was kind of like God reaching out to me, telling me I needed to go to confession, so I did, and I wouldn't have gotten this part that I was in if I hadn't gotten my priorities in order in my life. My question is, did you have any apprehension, any reservations about that aspect of being a Scully, or challenges or interest in that?
My belief system has always tended less towards religion and more towards what is most commonly referred to as a sense of spirituality, or a connection between all things in the universe, etc., etc., etc. So it's always been a foreign thing for me, and my involvement with it at the time was trying to understand, for her sake and for Chris's sake, why that was so. What these things that he was talking about actually meant, because I didn't have that upbringing and it wasn't part of my own experience. So it became important to me insofar as making it truthful for her. But I can't say that her faith necessarily had a direct impact on my faith, of which there is, but it's a different faith. It's,
right. Right. Well, thanks to you and Chris Carter for not being afraid to show that. In your words, that seems too popular.
Cool.
And thank you, Gillian, and I know David as well, but for all the work you do in acceptance groups, you know what I mean, and charities out there. It's always nice, when someone, of your guys' stature can give back to the community. So we always thank you for that as well. So, yeah. Okay.
Hi. So my question is for the both of you. Was there ever a moment over the last 25 years, or even just over the last couple of years during the revival, where when you were filming the scene opposite each other, in that moment, either that or maybe when you were rewatching the dailies, where you just thought to yourself, damn, Gillian really killed that scene, or wow, David just freaking slayed. Like, was there ever a moment where the two of you just kind of were in awe of each other's ability as actors?
Sure.
And if you can remember a specific incident.
I do remember at one point during, specifically during this last stretch, I guess during this last season, where I remember thinking in my own mind how good David was, and I couldn't tell you what episode that was or what scene it was, but I do recall having that thought.
I think it was, there was a scene that I wasn't in, which was when Gillian is talking to William as a chorus. or she thinks he's the boss. Tracy's dead. And so I come in at the very tail end of that scene. And as an actor, I wasn't there for her work either. So I didn't see it until the show aired. So that was really fun for me as somebody just watching, because normally I see, I've seen everything she's done, and I can't be surprised because I may be impressed, but I'm not going to be surprised because I've seen it. So that was a nice surprise for me to say, oh my God, I saw her, she had this long monologue, I didn't even read it. Where's my next line? It's like, ooh, day off, day off, day off. So it was that.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much. Hey.
Hi. I was wondering, out of all the episodes that you've done, is there anyone that really scared you or bothered you when you got done taping it?
No.
Donnie fucking Faster.
That's just the performance. Nick Chinlin, he did a nice job.
It was just creepy. I mean, interestingly, there was a lot of similarity between that episode and what he did to women that Spectre did in the fall. But it was very creepy. It was really creepy because it was the bathing and the nails and the.
Yeah, the bathing.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, that is creepy.
Do you even know what I'm talking about?
What?
Do you know what I'm referring to?
In which?
Let's move on.
Wait.
the serial killer bathing the dead women and cleaning them. Do you know that's what I was talking about?
In the X-Files.
Yeah. In the X-Files. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's so weird.
The only episode he's watched was that last one with your beautiful scene in it, obviously. Do you reflect a lot back on your work, or do you not like to do that? Yeah. Watching it in the moment to sort of make changes or, new decisions on your character, or is it something you kind of let go for a little while once filming's done and then come back to it later just to enjoy?
You mean you're talking specific to the X-Files?
Yeah, no, it works in general.
I mean, there's plenty of times where I think, oh man, I can't believe I didn't take that into consideration in the scene, or I forgot that I knew that, that happens all the time.
Yeah, especially again with TV, with all the sort of changes happening moment to moment.
But also not only that, but so often you're shooting completely out of sequence. Yeah. In the last season of the fall, whereas the first couple of seasons it was pretty chronological, and the last season it was all over the place. And that's 6 hours, 6 full hours, not a 42-minute hour, but 6 full hours. Mixed match. So you're doing the first episode or the last episode on the first day, and that's hard to stay sane through and feel like that you're getting the through line right.
Awesome. Hey, we have time for just a couple more questions, guys.
Hi, my name is Josh, and I am from Kenosha, Wisconsin. I have parents who really enjoy loving your guys' show, and they really love you guys. So I have a couple of questions that I thought maybe would be helpful. How well did you think that the show changed you from your real and TV show-wise perspectives?
You mean as a person, my perspective on the world or on alien life and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, both.
I don't think it changed my perspective on alien life or any of this or any of the paranormal or anything like that. I think we used to say when we used to talk at things like this that I was more like Scully, and or you're more like Mulder, and I'm more like Scully.
Correct.
So I'm not sure that that's changed at all, but I don't think I've changed my perspective on it.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey.
Hi. I just first off want to say that you're both so incredibly talented across all media platforms. But my question for you guys is, what's your favorite role that the other person has portrayed besides Mulder and Scully?
I would probably say Hank.
And I would say The Fall. I would. I dug it.
One of my favorite is the hand model from Zoolander. I love that. Great cameo. Well,
Did you say great daddy-o?
Great cameo. Yeah. That would be.
Bring back Daddy-o.
Great daddy-o.
Swinging.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but we thank you so much for being here and for joining us and answering our questions and everything. So thanks so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Wiswell Chicago, give it up, please, one more time for